Guys, so in today's video we're going to be building this polar bear habitat which is called Polar Point. So essentially it is a multi-story polar bear habitat and we have a nice big lake which is part of the river that they can swim in. They have some icebergs, they've got a little ice shards everywhere that I built from my previous builds. I decided to build a few new ones and update my collection. um, as I'm sure you'll have seen my ice shard videos by now and my Narnia build to see how I built kind of the ice shards and things. So yeah, it has this kind of underground viewing area, and then we have like the polar bears in there, and then obviously we have sort of the viewing area for the guests, which is this wonderful, whoops, let me just zoom out of there. This lovely, wonderful kind of cafe area so you can sit down and have something to eat and watch the polar bears. And we have this lovely kind of light pattern which is sort of inspired by the Trafford Centre. And then we go into here and we have the viewing area for the top of our polar bear habitat. So let's get to the speed build because this is going to be a fun one, I know it. So obviously I had the river that I built that I kind of wanted to use for the polar bears to swim in, so I spent a bit of time re-terraforming it. Unfortunately it did mess up a bit of the river and I lost some of the depth in some places, but I managed to kind of recover that to some extent by faffing around with the water enough. So the idea was that it was going to be like a palace on the other side of the bridge kind of a thing. It sort of turned out to be more of an ice hall rather than like a palace. I used a lot of the builds that I'd already made from the Narnia build and stuff like that. I know it's not very original, however, part of it was kind of just to show you guys like how you can use some of the pieces that I've made in like your own zoos and stuff like that, because this obviously was not a themed kind of zoo. This was just what I built for the polar bear habitat. Now obviously polar bears need a large amount of space, so one of the ways of like accommodating that space is by having like a multi-story polar bear habitat. So here we are essentially just working on this kind of like raised area. So I wanted it to be like an ice cave essentially, that you would be viewing into an ice cave and there'd be polar bears there. Now I had a bit of issue with like terraforming, so there were some holes in the ceiling, so I just filled them in with these giant glass hexagonal pieces. Which I find is really useful because it also lets a little bit of light down into the ice cave below, but it also kind of like fills in the holes and it just makes it look a lot nicer as well. I think it just adds a bit more to the kind of habitat. So yeah, so we've got these kind of walkways that the polar bears can walk up, and then we also have like this underground caves kind of system that we have going on, and I'm just trying to neaten it all up. Now again, I'm using the sort of the terraforming tools, but like the big grid in the cube kind of stuff that you can create there, as you can see. And it is good because you can, if you press X, you can like move it all around and like move it like you would normally with any of your like structural buildings and stuff like that. So this is going to be like the rampart slash the viewing area walkway kind of bit that I'm building here. I just wanted to get rid of that ugly looking like dirt that was poking through the glass here. So I wanted to try and neaten it up a bit and get it looking, you know, kind of a bit more like it would be in a zoo. And obviously the thought is here is that, you know, the snow and the soil has sort of covered some of the ground, so we're going to have like some of the floor and roof tiles like sunk into the ground a bit. It's a very, very icy build, this. As you can see, I'm using like the ice pieces, and as I talked about in my Narnia video, my ice shards video, you'll be able to see, go check out those too if you haven't seen them, but you'll be able to see how I sort of talk about building kind of ice castles and palaces and things like that. So here I was just having some fun with the steps. I couldn't get it to do what I wanted, so I decided to kind of have like a little like grand staircase, so we have like two different steps going up, and yeah, this is kind of just what I was building here. To get it to go around corners, sometimes you can't get the path to fit perfectly around a corner, so if you extend the path past that bit of path and then just connect the path where you want it to be and then delete the rest of the path, it'll fit snugly around your corner as well. I might do a little tutorial on paths at some point. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, this is my polar bear habitat, and it is, I'm pretty pleased with it, to be fair. I'm really happy with how it turned out. So again, I was just trying to hide the staircase, make it look like it was all intentional and like part of the building. Obviously, I do struggle with the polar bears in this game. Like, I mean, I get that in the wild they have massive territories, but they only have massive territories because they need to find food. And like, if they didn't have territories that big, they wouldn't be able to find the food. Because, you know, seals can swim really, really far, and they have to like travel far to find their food. And it's the same for big cats and things. Yet in this game, they seem to be determined that the polar bears must have a giant habitat, while the big cats, who also have territories that are huge, also sort of like the polar bears have like, this massive habitat and the big cats just don't, which is, it just seems a bit odd to me. It's really annoying because, you know, we paid money for the Arctic DLC, and then we basically can't use polar bears generally in your games, and it seems like a little bit of a letdown, to be fair. However, I've managed to make it work, and it has inspired some creative building on my behalf, so this was very, very fun to build. And as I said, we're getting kind of back into the swing of building a bit more now, and getting a bit more creative. I was kind of on a roll as well with these for building kind of like ice buildings. Like I said, I built the snow leopard for Paulsley's competition. I will show you that habitat as well. I'll do a quick tour of that because that was a bit of a one-off build. And then I built this, and I built the Narnia habitat, and it was just about a week of just building like ice buildings, and it was kind of fun. You know, it's Christmas coming up soon, so time to get a bit Christmassy. I am probably going to be doing a video on Arctico as well at some point. I will be building another polar bear habitat for Arctico, which is my Arctic franchise zoo, just, you know, to get into the Christmas spirit of it, really. So yeah, so again, I just wanted to have these big thick walls with like ledges and things on. Often when you're building these kind of buildings, it's just a case of having, you know, like ledges and things and lots of layers. Oh, my monkeys were. So, okay, since the new, like, the last update, I've had issues with like a bug, and I think it's where it doesn't register the climbing frames. I'm sure there's other people who have that. It's really annoying, so that's what that was. But yeah, here I am just sorting out more of the polar bear habitat and just working out that they've got enough water, enough snow, enough of everything. I mean, they've got like it's just enough space for them, really. It's kind of pushing it. But here you can see me doing the path thing where I extend past it and then place it. But yeah, obviously the polar bear was not happy because there was no snow, so start placing in the coolers. Obviously we're not a very realistic zoo. We're quite happy to just assume that a few coolers will keep the snow on the ground, which is probably not the case, but yeah. I'm just having some issues while building this as well. So the idea was that they would be able to snap in this indoor area, and the guests would be able to get really close and view them there, but then as soon as they leave like into the outdoor area, the guests are quite far away. I was going to put it in a dome building, but decided it looked terrible, so decided just to leave it as it is. And you know what, I really liked how it turned out. So here we go with the ice shards. So if you're placing these in your zoo, I think it's quite good because often people upload things to the workshop but then don't necessarily have a go at placing it themselves. So this was kind of cool to just have a mess around with my own pieces that I built and just see kind of how they fit together and how it can work together, and just also sort of show you like how I can use these pieces to create something and how you can do it effectively. So obviously while I was just, you know, building a brand new building for this, I did use and recycle some of my Arctic pieces because I was like, well, what's the point in rebuilding them? And I did rebuild a couple of them and make some new ones, but generally I just used the ones I had. So I was umming and ahhing about whether to have shops and things in here. It's obviously a very large area, and it's almost like I've called it the Polar Point Ice Hole because essentially it is like an ice hole that the people walk into. So yeah, we're just sort of doing the roofing now and getting there with it. But I mean, polar bears are really, really cute. I am glad we do have them in the game. As I said, like, you know, it's unfortunately with climate change and everything, you know, they're losing their habitat, and it is important that we take it into consideration that there could be a time when we don't have polar bears anymore, and I think that'd be a really, really sad time, really, because they're really cool and like they're massive as well. They're these huge like bears that you know, the ice bears, and you know, they're sort of almost mythical. Like, think about how many kind of fantasy books have polar bears in them. Like, there's just like, I mean, you've got like His Dark Materials, you've got even like Narnia, and you know, there's so many, like, they just inspire kind of so many stories and things like that. That is, you know, they've obviously had an impact on humans, and it would just be such a shame for them to disappear. But yeah, speaking of His Dark Materials, so the bear in here, the male bear, his name is Eofor, after not Eofor, Yorick even. The cub is called Eofor, but the male bear is called Yorick after Yorick Bernison from His Dark Materials, which I'm currently watching at the moment and really enjoying. It's nice to have something nice to look forward to every weekend at the moment. But yeah, so you know, they inspire a lot of kind of fantasy, like ideals, really, and they're just this really cool, like, bear. They're just really cool. I just, you know, I've seen polar bears in, well, it would have been a very, very long time ago now. So when I was growing up, when I was about 4 or 5, we went to SeaWorld and we saw polar bears there, which is, you know, not amazing, but that was back in like the early 2000s where nobody really cared about animal welfare. It's quite the same. And also, what the other place I've seen them is in Prague Zoo as well, where they had 3 polar bears, and it was a little bit of a sad habitat. I feel like they could have made it a bit bigger, because it was quite a small habitat for the size of bears. Like, I do think, yeah, they need enough space to move around in. But it was nice to see the polar bears. Again, it's not something you see very often in our zoos here. So yeah, that boat is one of the ones that's just from kind of one of the prefabs and the blueprints. Here's me just doing some cave work, making like some ice caves. Again, if you're ever stuck for like inspiration on ice caves, there's so many like even just like films like Ice Age can give you ideas on like how to make ice caves look really cool. A lot of it really is lighting with the ice pieces. It's getting the lighting right. So yeah, and that's our polar bear swimming around. So we just gotta build some icebergs now and get a lot of it done. A lot of it is just the fine detailing really in kind of the ice hull. I did mess around with the water a lot because I just could not get it right and it was so annoying. So yeah. But yeah, I mean, I would be really cool to see animals like orcas and belugas in this game. And you know, with the leaks that we had, I really hope that, I'm hoping that by the time this video goes live, the DLC will have been released and this will all be just like in the past. And I'm really hoping that the DLC is going to be like an Antarctic pack or a European pack with like the seal in it that was leaked. I really hope we get like aquatic animals. I really hope that they are like, they're taking into what we're saying, because like, oh, pardon me, because having like seals in this game to go alongside your polar bears and to go alongside the reindeer, to go alongside like, you know, the Arctic wolves would just be amazing, because at the end of it they are cold climate animals, and there's gonna just be some, you know, overlap with penguins, and you can just have a whole Arctic zoo with like animals from really cold climates. And like, we have so many tropical animals now. We have a few more desert animals thanks to the Australia pack. So I just really hope that we see some more. And yeah, and I hope we get deer as well. Red deer I hope we get, if it's a European pack, which I think we were all leaning towards, I hope we get like red deer, and I hope the grey seals are part of it. I mean, it could potentially be 4 packs, it could be 4 packs, but it could also just be 1 aquatics pack with some of the animals that are there, if they are up-to-date files, of course. That's the concern, is the files up-to-date? Are they up-to-date, or are they going to be like outdated ones and we're going to be disappointed? Who knows? I guess we're just going to have to find out how disappointed we'll be, because I expect we'll all be disappointed anyway. Like, there'll be something that disappoints us all. So here we go, this is me building another ice fire over here, and again, like, if you haven't checked out my ice shards tutorial to find out how to like build these and just to sort of see how you can build these, go check it out because you'll probably find it really helpful. And you know, I really enjoy building ice spires. I feel like they're quite fantastical, I think. So yeah, they're quite kind of like fantasy themed, and so it's cool to build, you know, sort of non-realistic habitats with them. Or unless you're building like a full-on Arctic zoo and want to put ice spires in, that's also super cool. So I'm probably going to leave you with the music for now, just because it's a very long video, and I do apologise for the length of it, but it was a very big build. So yeah, I will catch you at the end for the cinematics, and don't forget to leave me some feedback below, because I'd really like to hear what you think about this. But yeah, stay tuned for the cinematics at the end, and I'll leave you with the music.